Hello and welcome to the Internal Comms podcast with me, Katie McCauley. If you care about how we communicate at work and are looking to improve it, you are in exactly the right place. Every fortnight, I sit down with a leading comms practitioner, author, academic, consultant, and together we tease out ways to improve how we communicate at work. I am super excited about this episode because I have my most frequent guest back on the show, Rachel Miller. She has been over the years so generous with her knowledge and her insight. I think in many ways her name is synonymous with internal communications, and she has written a brand new book, Successful Change Communication: How to Inform, Involve and Inspire Your Employees. So let's dive straight in. Hi Rachel, welcome back to the show. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to the studio.
I know, it's great, isn't it? Yeah, I know.
Very good.
Now, you have already written a book. You have blogged for years. You've worked in internal comms for, I want to say, 30 years or more?
27 years since I started my career.
27 years.
Yeah.
Was there a moment when you thought to yourself, gosh, I really do have to write this particular book?
Yes, constantly, actually. Mainly while I was writing the first one. So when I was writing internal communication strategy back in 2023, as I was writing, I kept coming up with ideas and memories kept bubbling up, and they were very focused on change communication. And I thought, no, I need to park that. I need to concentrate on internal communication strategy. But those ideas that were surfacing were just bubbling away. And then when the publisher got in touch and said, would you like to consider writing a second book? It felt like the most natural thing in the world to go for change communication, because all those thoughts and ideas and everything that has lived in my head and my heart and my notebooks, I thought, this is the one. This is the one that needs to come out. And it's the topic that I'd avoided writing about for many reasons. I think because it's quite painful, actually, to write about change, because it causes you to think about your own experiences.
Yes.
And actually, it was really cathartic. It was a really cathartic thing to do. Yeah, but it was definitely emotional.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. I think you can't think about change without thinking about the emotions around change. And something that I was mindful of was, as internal communicators, we don't often talk about the impact on change on us. So I wanted to write about that. I wanted to create space for that, to really talk about what does it mean to be a professional communicator helping an organisation through change when your team are impacted.
Right.
And your future is at stake. So I thought that's a real opportunity, actually, to use the mechanism of writing a book to lift a lid and to explore all of those emotions and explore all of that experience that we don't often talk about because we're busy helping everybody else.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And when I read it, I thought, oh my goodness me, this is like the Bible. There is so much in here. There's so many models. There's so many frameworks. You've brought everything together. And there's your passion and your emotional intelligence and your warmth, I think, that runs all the way through it, which you've just described. But let's dive straight in to the deep end. What is the most common mistake? So we rock up, we're asked to support a major change programme. Is there a common mistake that you see organisations making over and over again?
There's so many, Katie. there's so many. The main one for me is not looking back at what's been done before.
Yeah.
And not being cognizant of the change memory. So that memory that our employees hold.
Yes.
And when, particularly as a consultant, when I'm called in to advise on change, before we dive into the detail, I always want to just pause, reflect and say, help me understand what's got you to this point. Yeah. What changes have your people experienced already? And part of that for me is understanding the feelings around change in the organisation, the experience of change, the maturity of understanding. Do your employees have a frame of reference? So what have they experienced before? Because I can't possibly advise without understanding that. So the mistake that I see is people just dive in.
Yes.
And there are certain words, certain phrases that perhaps have been used and overused inside that organisation that have lost their meaning. I need to know that. I need to know that up front. So I write in the book about the change memory and how often we hold that as internal communicators. We know, particularly when we're in-house, we know what our employees have gone through. We know what our leaders have gone through. And we use that when we are planning change and when we're crafting key messages or whatever it might be. So that for me is is a biggie. It's a big mistake. Like, so don't just dive in. Take the time to look back and think about, key messages you've done before. What worked, what didn't. I've got a checklist for change around how to analyse change in your organisation. So at the very end of change, it does come. It can feel like it doesn't. But giving yourself that opportunity to actually do a wash up, to do an after action review, to do a look back and think what worked, what didn't. Which of our leaders were brilliant at communicating this change and who was dreadful?
Yes.
Because that's really helpful. So when I say looking back, I include that. Like what channels worked really well? What is it that going into a change that actually all that thinking and all that planning and all that past work, we often only capture that when we're doing a handover for the next person into our role.
Such a good point.
So get in the habit of doing that.
Yes, and keep learning. What's interesting about the corporate memory, though, is that it sometimes lasts longer than the individual's been at the organisation. I've rocked up and talked to employees in focus groups about a change that's coming up or anything really, and they've talked about something that hasn't even happened to them. They weren't even in the organisation, but it's hung around like a bad smell. It's interesting, isn't it?
It's fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. I wrote about that in the book about I was doing a focus group in an organisation and I got told about the fire. There was a fire that had happened in the organisation and therefore a part of the building was shut off from employees. We can't use that bit. It was an extension of their restaurant at the staff canteen. We can't use that room anymore because of the fire. The fire had happened 10 years previously. And the room had been fixed, everything had been repaired, but it was this like myth and legend. So when I asked the comms team, I said, what's going on? Is there areas that are restricted? Is it unsafe? And they said, no, that was repaired years ago.
Amazing.
But it was just the habit people had got into and the myth and legend had prevailed. So when you joined the organisation, you got told, we can't use over there. And actually it was open. So that was just, you're right, that memory lives longer than the change. It gets passed on as a myth or a legend. And that's really important for us to know. What is it that our people are holding on to, that perception or reality around how we're communicating, how we're treating them. And the wounds of change often are really deep.
Right.
And they're often really raw as well. So when you're going into change and you're trying to communicate, knowing where your people are at is hugely important.
Yeah, the starting point. Yeah, absolutely. I was intrigued by the subtitle of your book. So inform, yes, I think we get there. We understand key messages and all the rest of it, alignment around them, a little bit of involve, maybe potentially not as much involve as we should, but then inspire. Can we inspire if the change is difficult? Talk to me about inspire.
You absolutely can. It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy at all. And I think I've used inform, involve, inspire for years for internal communication. So it's going beyond, particularly for internal comms teams. If we're just informing, we're very much in broadcast mode, very much in one-way mode. Then we get into involving, so two-way, co-created communication, collaboration, all those good things. And then inspire for me is a stretch target.
Yeah.
It's really tapping into that emotional side around how can we bring our people with us so they know what's going on, they feel involved in the change, but actually how can you immerse them? So it's a tough thing to do, but it's not impossible. So throughout the course of research in the book, particularly, I was asking my clients and comms friends to give me examples of how they've applied Inspire. So when I'm working with organisations, I'm challenging them on that to say, how can we inspire your colleagues through this change? And that is hard when you're talking restructures, redundancies, mergers and acquisitions, things where you are fundamentally changing what's happening in the organisation. Very often I find when we do employee surveys, the feedback is change is done to us. not for us, and not with us? That's such a common question, and that we ask. And in the way that our employees hold the change memory, we know that about our colleagues. We know that there's a perception that change is done at us and to us.
Yes.
So Inspire for me is about how can we create possibility for our people to really be involved in the change. Doesn't mean they're going to like it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they'll talk favourably about it. But how can you paint the picture of what's to come or what could be?
Yes.
So you're sparking motivation, you're sparking thoughts. So it's things like, if you're moving office, for example, you might be informing people that there'll be a new building that you're moving to. And then you might be involving them in terms of to help choose the chairs.
Yes. Yes.
And it might be that you are getting them to try things out. And then inspiring them is imagining what it's like to be there.
Yes.
What will our way of working look like, feel like, sound like? So it's much more about, it's that visceral experience of change.
Yes.
So it's not just I know what's going on, I feel involved in what's going on, but that you are deeply entrenched in it.
Yes.
And that is, it's not easy, but the impact that it has when you get it right, you can feel the difference.
Yeah.
And when you are hopefully measuring change, we could do a whole day on measuring change. But when you're thinking about change and you're thinking about what does good look like and what does great look like, great for me is where inspiring comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really immersing our people in a change so they know what's going on, they feel involved, and they can talk about it knowledgeably. So it's not like it's being done to me and at me, but I know from the inside out what's happening in the organisation.
It's the one about the head office. I'm just thinking of a head office move at the moment, actually, that we're going through for a client. And that Inspire bit has come through collaboration. So they've got these new open planned areas that are designed for people to come together. So exactly what you've just said, actually, I hadn't thought about it that way before, but it's inspiring people around, wow, we can actually collaborate better. And what's that going to lead to? That's going to lead to more innovation, better ideas. That's the inspiration bit. Whereas a head office move is like, that's not our address now, it's that one. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It could be that flat and that unemotional. I really, really like that. Just on measurement, and I don't want to stray us off the party line too much, but when you say measurement, and we could spend a whole day on it, we really, really could. My first thought, and I don't know if this is a good starting point, but if you were just going to give one handy hint on measurement, is please some upfront measurements so you know where you are. That's probably where I would start. What is the baseline? What's the benchmark? What do you know today? But is that the answer? I'm not sure.
It's a really important thing to do. I think often we dive straight into the detail and we don't take stock to look at where are we at now? How do our colleagues feel right now about this change or this merger, whatever we're about to go through? That's really important. So you can see the progression towards the new way of working or adopting new behaviours or whatever it might be. So absolutely. I think my shorthand for measurement is to measure what you treasure.
Yeah.
That for me has been, it's like it lived as a Post-it note on my desk for many, many years.
It's a great line.
I love it because actually, what do you treasure? What's important to you?
Yeah.
If you're trying to think about a change and what you could measure all sorts. But what's really important to you? What do you treasure? It's not what do you like and what can you count?
Yeah.
That's the easy stuff.
That's the easy stuff.
It's
measure
more,
what you treasure.
What do you treasure? What's important to you? Is it that our employees feel really involved in the change? And what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? And when I challenge clients, and it's not, this isn't an easy conversation. It is a challenging conversation, but it's a really important one because often I find they measure things just because they can.
Yeah.
Because they're easy.
Yeah.
They're clicks, like, shares, and we're in output territory. I want to talk outcomes. And outcomes for me is that language of treasuring.
Yeah.
We treasure the pride that our employees have in our organisation. If we go through a change and it's really gnarly, it's really knotty and it's really messy, then actually, if our employees at the start are feeling anxious about it and they're feeling concerned about what's going to happen, if at the end of it, 3 months, 6 months, say, our people are feeling like, I was kept informed, I knew what was going on, I didn't like it, but I trusted our leadership.
Yeah.
For example.
Yes.
Actually, what I treasure is that feeling that employees have, that I might not like what's happened in the organisation, but at every every single stage, every milestone, I felt involved, I felt included, I felt that I could picture myself in the organisation of the future with our new values, new brand, new leader, whatever the change might be. So it's not impossible, but really nailing that. What do we treasure? What is it that's really important? And if we don't know how to measure it, it starts that conversation for me. That's being strategic. That's doing the deep thinking that informs your doing.
I love that so much, because you're also getting people to pause and think, oh, what is it that we treasure? What is it that's important to us? Is it pride? Is it collaboration? Is it innovation? What is it? And so often do we really pause to think about what's at the heart of this organisation? What is the beating heart of this organisation that makes us who we are? So just elevating those conversations. You use the T word there, trust. So important. And every year I look at, I'm sure you do, look at the Edelman Trust Barometer and think, oh my goodness me, trust is still through the floor. But actually, this big PR agency is talking about employer media being the most trusted. That's us, isn't it? Employer media. That's where we put our hands up. Trust for me, I think, so important in change. But for me, I don't know why, my brain always brings it back to that candour, vulnerability, honesty, transparency around change, which I think sometimes organisations struggle with. But almost, if there is something that you're tempted to sweep under the carpet, do the absolute opposite of that.
Absolutely that. Completely that. Completely that. I wrote about it in the book where I was working with a client and they had 3 approaches to change. And one of them was to be intentionally vague. Intentionally vague, Katie. And I looked at it and I said, if that's the approach that you're going for, then I'm not the right consultant for you.
No way. Yeah.
And I said, as an ethical, chartered PR practitioner, I abide by a code of ethics. But for me personally, I cannot, in good conscience, be involved in advising you if your whole mindset is to be intentionally vague.
Wow.
Because where's the trust? Where's the trust that you're not trusting your employees with the right information? You're not honouring that commitment you have as an employer to look after your people, to nurture them, to bring them with you on this journey of change. So by the end of that meeting, that was not on the table. I successfully removed it because I was going to remove myself if that was the route they chose to go down. But I think I've seen that many times in my career, but I've never seen it as explicitly, literally a sheet of paper with intentionally vague. So it was, things were hidden. And that, for me, that breaks trust. If you're trying to be intentionally vague, there's no good outcome there for your employees. There's no good outcome for your leaders. And certainly trust is not in the picture there at all. It's so broken.
I mean, in today's world, I don't think you can be intentionally vague with any audience, really. Indeed. You certainly cannot be intentionally vague with employees. They're going to, for a start, they're going to know you're being intentionally vague.
Absolutely.
And start prodding even more.
Absolutely.
What is it you're not telling me?
Yeah.
This episode of the Internal Comms podcast is sponsored by Work Vivo. Now, if you work in internal communications, you know how hard it is to keep everyone aligned, especially when communication is spread across disconnected tools. It makes campaigns harder to run, and it's even harder to see what is actually landing. That's where Work Vivo comes in. Work Vivo is an AI-native employee experience platform that brings communication, culture, knowledge, and measurement into one connected space, helping communicators reach every employee from HQ to the front line and measure the impact that they're making. So join some of the world's biggest brands shaping their culture with Work Vivo. To learn more, simply visit workvivo.com. That's workvivo.com. So let's talk about your Cloverleaf model, an important 4-part framework for assessing whether change communication in an organisation is working well, identifying the gaps. I think it's going to be really helpful for viewers and listeners. Can you talk us through that model?
Of course. So it used to be three. It used to be 3 C's of change communication. And I spoke about this for years on stage, and I would have images of keys so that every C was a key and it would unlock the potential of successful change communication. So they were consistency, clarity, and certainty. And I added connection. So I'm going to read you the actual definitions of what they are. So consistency is, if you think about the Cloverleaf, it's a lens to look through.
Yes.
So it helps me analyse organisations. And these are the things that I look for to help me determine whether the change is working well or if it's not, or if there are areas to do things in a different way or do them for the first time. So consistency is about having a source of truth.
Yes.
That things are fact checked and that they're accurate. And that source of truth is so important, because who or what do your employees rely on to help them learn about the change? If it's their people manager, I need to know that, because I need to make sure that people managers are trained and know that they are that source of truth. If it's the intranet, it needs to be updated.
You can guarantee that.
Indeed. Clarity is about having jargon-free language. So clear explanations.
Yes.
And it's understanding what is it that is changing and making it really clear for our people so it is immediately understandable, not wrapping ourselves up in all of these grand terms and hyperbole and things that don't make sense for our people. So clear language, particularly if you're working internationally, particularly if you're translating into multiple languages. So having real clarity so it's immediately understandable. I also mean that from a neurodivergence perspective as well. So don't use vague terms. So make sure that things are clear.
Yeah.
And certainty is about being definitive, being factual, and also being reassuring. So I make all these words work really hard for me here. So being factual and definitive is things like, what do we know? What are we certain of in terms of the timeline? Or if you can't do a timeline, have a planned sequence of events. This is what we're certain of. This will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen. That need for certainty is such a deep-rooted thing for our employees, because in change, when things feel really turbulent and they feel like everything is uncertain, when you are able to communicate with certainty, and I do that where I give certainty of communication, even if I can't give certainty of content.
Love that.
It's such a massive thing for me. I've thought about that for years, and I've done that for years, where you will be updated on a Monday morning about this particular change. And when that Monday morning rolls around, if the update is there's nothing further to update you on, that's fine. The communication doesn't stop because the listening doesn't stop.
Yes.
But it creates certainty, because when you don't do that and you don't manage the cadence, then there's a void.
Yeah.
And then people feel uncertain. So we want to avoid that. And then the final part, which I added in COVID, actually, in 2020, is connection. Because it's unthinkable now to be communicating change and not thinking about connection. Because during that time, my goodness, nothing was staying the same. Everything was changing for our organisations and for our people. So I realised that connection is vital. So the way I describe that is networks and listening.
Yes.
So who is having conversations in the organisation? What are the communities of practice you've got, or the employee resource groups that you've got, those networks? Making sure that you're connecting in with them as an internal communicator, and making sure your leaders are aware.
Yeah.
So what's the sentiment? What are people talking about? What are they worried about? But it's also how you link what you're doing to your organisational strategy.
Yes.
So the connection is around, how do we make this change make sense? How do we show there is a bigger picture in the organisation, and that we're not just doing random change initiatives? Because it can feel like that.
It can feel like that.
It can always feel like that. So it's been really clear. This is part of our 1, 3, 5 year programme to be this type of organisation. That's how this change fits in. You're connecting individual changes with the organisational strategy. And the final part for me, for connection, is being emotionally intelligent. So you are really aware of where people are at. And you're not coming out with a change and saying everything's going to be shiny and perfect and brilliant. And your people are stressed. They're overwhelmed. They're overloaded. And they're not in the right mindset.
Yes.
To have this picture of the future being painted.
Yeah.
So making that connection with your employees is around meeting them where they're at.
Yeah.
understanding, having that, applying that emotional intelligence to be cognizant of what's stopping the change from being successful.
Yes.
Or what language is getting in our way, what language breaks the connection between our people when they hear reform or they hear transformation. And that change memory is painful.
Yeah.
And they connect that to something bad in the past.
Yes.
It might not be what you're doing today. It might be completely different. But that memory that they've held means it breaks that connection and it breaks that trust. So that as a model for me, that consistency, clarity, certainty, connection, they're the lenses that I look through. And more often than not, when I'm looking at organisations who are communicating change, one of those won't be in place.
Yes.
And they're not always a massive big thing. It might be definitive. We don't have definitive, facts. Therefore, our people don't feel reassured.
Yeah.
Because there's no timeline or there's no consistent messaging in place, for example. That's quite an easy fix.
Yes, yes.
So it's not about always, spending a lot of time, money and effort. It's actually looking through those 4 lenses and then saying, actually, what's missing? Or what do we need to do better? What is it actually isn't working for our people?
So much good stuff in there. I almost don't know where to start. Just an aside, but a story that completely backs up certainty. I don't know if you know Eva Kongs, but she's the head of internal communications at Médecins Sans Frontières. And she's been there for 25 years. So the organisation that flies in, at the disaster zones around the world, natural crises, all of that. But unfortunately, because of where they work, a lot of their employees can be under threat of all kinds of things, and in rare instances go missing, get kidnapped even. She's a family liaison point. She's been trained as a family liaison point. And I said, okay, so what does that mean? She said, I'm the bridge between the family and that employee that really might be in a very difficult situation. We might not even know exactly where they are. So I said to her, okay, what have you learned then through all your training and having done that? What's the most important thing that you apply when you're dealing with a family? And she said, this really shocked me. She said, before I put the phone down, I say to them, and I'm going to call you back at 9 o'clock tonight or 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I call them back. And if there's no update, it doesn't matter, I still call them back. And just for a few hours, they're not going to stop worrying, but they just have that, right, at least I know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
My goodness me, that's your certainty, isn't it?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, if you can't be certain with what's going to happen, be certain with your communication. I love that so much. Can we then just finally nail, for once, get rid of, whatever the expression is, this idea that if there's nothing more, if we haven't progressed anything, if there's nothing, we haven't done anything more, then we don't say anything. That's not true, is it? We can simply say, we're still working on it, we don't know the answer yet. That's better than saying nothing, always.
I think so. I had this exact conversation the other day with a client where I said, we were talking about having an all staff, and I said, you need to show up. And they said, but there's nothing to say on the change. And I said, okay, there's nothing new to say on the change, but you can reinforce what you've already said.
Yes.
And they said, why don't it annoy people though, Rachel, if we're saying there's going to be an update and then there is no update? I said, but you're missing the point around this isn't just you informing, it's you involving, it's you listening. So the communication doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It's okay to reinforce what's happening. It's okay to underline this is where we're at in the process.
Yeah.
It's okay if you have a timeline of events, a sequence of events. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
You're repeating what's going to happen next and then what's going to happen next. But showing up and being available for questions is really important because you're checking for understanding and you're giving people a chance to absorb what the previous update was.
Yeah.
If you're running at a pace of change where every Monday, if you think about COVID, Katie, 3 times a day updates, was it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was the freneticness of that, the pace of the change and the pace of the cadence of that change it felt like we were just being bombarded with information constantly, and we didn't have the luxury of time to pause, reflect, analyse. Does this make sense? Do you understand this? Do you know what you need to do now? We didn't have that luxury of time because we were in it and on it constantly. So when there is a lull in communication, or let's be clear, if there's a lull in information, doesn't stop the communication happening.
No.
And it doesn't stop the need for our leaders to continue being visible, to share that there is a plan, that things are working and progressing as intended, the reason for the silence is we're in a 90-day consultation period with unions, for example.
Yeah.
You know, there are real reasons, that there's detail why you can't say something. And normally, if you're a unionised organisation, it will be because those discussions are happening.
Yes.
But you can say that.
You can explain.
You can say that. So I push back on that when people say with it, but there's nothing to say. Then listen.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's not about, you know, that FaceTime with employees isn't just for them to see your face as a leader. It's for you to see their faces.
Yes.
And it's for you to be visible and to front this change and be the face of the change, if you like. So that's really important. So yes, to put it to bed. If it feels like there's nothing to say, you're not listening well enough.
That's a great answer. I think, first of all, we're living and breathing the change. We're thinking about it all the time. We're in conversations with leaders about what's going to happen when. We forget that actually our employees have got busy lives, that there's lots of messages flying around organisations, so they don't necessarily have it in their heads all the time. So that gentle reminder of where are we in the process is absolutely fine. And my observation over the years talking to employees about change is that, or any kind of transformation, is that they think when there's no updates, even if the update is there's no more updates at the moment or we're still working on it, they tend to think it's gone away. It's just kind of gone away. Oh, no one's talking about that anymore. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, really, really, very, very important. Are there particular warning signs? I mean, you've talked about the 4 C's, so those would be potentially the warning signs, but without betraying any confidences and saying anything you shouldn't. But when you rock up inside an organisation and you see something, you think that's a sign. That's a sign that change is failing, or at least the change communication is failing.
Oh, you can tell straight away, Katie. Whenever I go anywhere, particularly if I'm going on client sites, I go in as if I'm an employee there for an interview, and I take on board, what does this feel like? What's this experience like?
Yeah.
And if I'm in a client office, particularly during change, the closed body language in focus groups speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Before employees have even opened their mouths and started to talk to me, if their cameras are off, if we're doing it remotely, or they're not looking at me, they're not making eye contact, often it's that this is all too much. I just don't want to be asked about the change. You can see it, you can feel it. So one of the key things for me in as terms of an early warning sign is clocking that behaviour.
Yeah.
What are the changes of behaviour that are happening? It might be that there's more questions being asked of our leaders. It might be that the tone has changed. It might be that they're quite combative questions now happening via Viva Engage or whatever we're using. It might be that there were lots and lots of questions that were happening and actually now there's none. It might not mean that everything is super clear. It might be that our disengagement has risen, morale has gone down, people are overloaded, overwhelmed, just don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Unless it feels relevant for them, unless we've really tailored and targeted the communication to actually feel like this is what it means for me, then I'm going to pay attention.
Yes.
So the early warning signs for me are just look at your employees and how they're acting and how they're behaving. Are they signing up for discretionary effort things?
Yeah.
Charity events, fun days, whatever it might be. There's often you can feel it when there's such a jarring of messaging where you've got an HR change, say, or HR-led change going on in the organisation, and then you've got another department who want to communicate about this lovely jolly hockey sticks thing going on over here. And you as the internal communicator, you have that overall visibility.
Yeah.
You have that visibility of where are our people at, and those early warning signs from the rumours, from the sentiment, the emotions, the feeling, that really happy, shiny thing over there is going to jar dreadfully.
Yes.
And it's not going to land. And I've written a whole blog post, which I think we've spoken about before, ranting about land. Because often for me is that this isn't going to land well with employees. What I mean there, if I am allowing myself to say the word land, is actually it's not going to resonate. The timing's not right. They're not in the right headspace. If you ignore those warning signs, and people often do, or they think, well, we have to do business as usual, or the change is only impacting 15, 20% of our organisation. Surely we have to carry on communicating. You do, But those 80% are watching how you're treating their colleagues.
Of course.
They're observing that if you're ignoring the signs that they're overloaded, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, things aren't great. So it really matters. But what a privilege, Katie, to do that as a job.
Yeah, I agree.
For us to be able to do that, whether we're in-house or whether we're working as consultants, to have that overall picture and to hold, I often talk about this holding a mirror up.
Yeah.
Particularly as a consultant, I am holding a mirror up and I'm sharing what's reflected back.
Yeah.
People might not like it, but you can't ignore it. It's really important to be aware of those early warning signs and do something about it. Don't just think, oh, once they've got used to the change, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
You need to act on it, particularly if you've got values of respect.
Yeah.
And, looking after each other, nurturing each other.
Yeah.
How you show up, how you demonstrate those values and behaviours during change speaks volumes about your organisation and the culture that you're trying to create and cultivate. That how you show up during change matters. You can't ignore it and think, oh, when everything's back to normal, then we'll look after them a bit more. No,
it carries forward.
It does.
It's interesting what you talk about, that switching off and camera off, head down, no questions, no debate. It's really interesting. It reminds me many, many years ago working with a client, and I said, you're going to have to send me your latest engagement survey because I need to know, what people are thinking and feeling. And he said, oh, do I have to? The scores are really, really bad. I said, well, no reason not to. Send it all through. And the scores were really bad. And I got on the phone to him and we talked about it. And I said, but I'm not giving up hope here totally, because you ask a question at the end about how we could be better. And your 4,000 employees, almost all of them have written you essays about how they would like it to be better. That is a sign they haven't yet given up and they want to be involved. So I think that debate that we see sometimes, and those when people don't agree, but at least it's out there and it's open and people care enough to get involved in the conversation.
Yeah.
When they stop being involved, then you've probably lost the will, I think.
I think that's absolutely true. I think I had a conversation with a client the other day about anonymous questions.
Yeah.
And I was asked, if people start using the anonymous function, does that mean that there's more of a problem or less of a problem? And we had a whole conversation around it. And I said, the key bit for me is, what are they saying?
Yes.
The issue with not having names on is I don't know who to go back to if there's a bigger issue that I'm then having, if it uncovers that there's an issue in a certain department or a certain country, but it's kind of hinted at and it's not explicit, then it will take time to figure that out.
Yes.
But part of that for me is around trusting your employees to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Rather than assume they'll do the wrong thing. But also, if you've got an environment where you welcome questions and your employees know that you're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
It's not a witch hunt, It's not. Whenever we do focus groups, whenever Dan and I and my team, whenever we do focus groups and audits or listening, our mindset when we play back is we want to focus on what's been said, not who said what.
Yeah.
Because then if it means not having your names in whatever forum you're using or, polling tech that you're using, if it means having anonymous ways for people to communicate, but then they will contribute and they will ask questions and they will give their opinion, then I'd far rather that.
I agree.
I'd far rather see what the comments are, then I can do something about them. Yes. When you choose to turn comments off or you choose to have anonymous comments and you have this sense that if we try and control this and we try and curate this, it doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop the comments. It's just you're not hearing them.
And you just can't see them. You can't do anything. You're not making them visible. So again, that goes down to trust for me, that actually you're trusting your employees to say, tell us what you think. Yeah. You can't then sanitize it.
No.
And shut it down.
Yeah.
And choose not to surface it on the big screen at your all staff. It doesn't work like that, because your employees can see what each other are asking and they might be upvoting. Yeah. That's really important. Again, it's that trust. You can see that there's a problem. Don't ignore it. Don't hide it from your leaders. So there's a role there for us as internal communicators to hold that mirror up and share what's really being reflected back.
Yes, absolutely. that's a neat segue to my next question. I'm going to give you 5 or 10 minutes with a leadership team on the cusp of a big change. Is there one message or one piece of advice you want to give them before they sort of mobilise to support this change?
Plan for the transition. Don't just plan for the change. So change happens instantly and transition takes longer. That's the emotional process you go through as you get your head into what would this look like, sound like, feel like. Often I find for leaders, they focus so much on getting the change right.
Interesting.
And they don't create space for people to get comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, to sit with ambiguity. So transition for me, and William Bridges' transitions theory is my go-to on this. And it's been really mindful with leaders that you need to give your people time. And change happens quickly when transition takes longer. It's that emotional maturing, if you like, in terms of imagining what the change will be like with less people, more people, different leaders, different brand, different products, whatever the change might be. So my recommendation always with leaders is you really need to be on message. You really need to be visible, but also you need to be listening and able to plan for the messy bit. Just holding space for that, plan for that your timeline may not be the same as your colleague's timeline or your team's timeline. How they process that transition, how they get their heads around it might take longer than it took you to when you first heard about the change. Plan for that, allow that, be visible during that time. So we often don't do that.
No,
we go straight in. This is changing. This is what's happening. This is what's coming up. So that conversation around people process change at different speeds. And they might not be, it might not be appropriate to talk about the shiny new future yet. Because your people are still working their way through all the emotions and they're processing everything. Give them the time.
Yes.
So that is something we don't talk about enough. And that's something that when I've helped leaders be successful in communicating change, it's when they have shown up and been visible and said, I know that you're still processing this. I know it's a lot to get our heads around. I know we're not sure of exactly all the details of what we'll be like in 6 months' time. You're acknowledging that bit, the messy bit, the transition bit of getting our heads and processing around what the change will be once we get to the other side. You're
showing that emotional intelligence. I think that's so important. Let's talk about language and words. We both come from a journalistic background. Both are, well, you also influenced by Lois Lane.
I was.
I know. I just thought, Superman, what's that all about? Underpants over a pair of tights. Lois was just the woman for me. The language we use around change, so important. Are there any particular language traps we need to avoid?
Oh, there's so many traps, Katie, when it comes to language. There's so many. I think the overly flowery language and the hyperbole around this is going to be a transformation. And for me, transformation is I always think about the caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly. That's a transformation.
Yes.
Nothing is the same. That is absolutely a transformation. If you're doing a small iterative change and you're calling it transformation because you think it sounds better, it might not be. And actually your employees are the first to know the difference. So if you are badging everything to sound better than it is and it's quite underwhelming, that doesn't help your employees.
No, that's a good point.
So being cognizant around what language have we used in the past to mean something like productivity or efficiency? If you linked that with an organisational change that meant restructures and redundancies, if you use that term, again, it goes back to that change memory. If you use the term efficiency, as an employee, I'm going to interpret that as job losses.
Exactly.
So the language bit is massive for me. I've got a whole slide whenever we do All Things IC Live, which are our quarterly masterclasses and masterminds. I'm doing this year, particularly 2026, is all about change. Almost like there's a book in the background, Katie. I wonder why. But I've got a slide which is the language around change, and it's phrases like reform, revitalising, and there's some phrases on there that HR use, things like sunsetting, and which is. Do you remember we talked about this before? Grandfathering and sunsetting to retire something.
Yes,
that language doesn't help anybody.
No.
It might be accurate. It might legally be correct, but the watchwords for me around change are being aware of what you've said before, being mindful of over-promising and under-delivering, and it is okay to say change. It is okay. You can say
the
change.
sky is not going to fall in.
It's really not, because do you know what? Your colleagues can see straight through it.
Yeah.
If you try and dress it up and try and make it sound like this is our digital transformation, we've got new printers. Like it's it's a change. It doesn't help anyone.
Yeah,
and it also takes away from when it really is transformation, when you are fundamentally changing the way an organisation is doing something, then actually be mindful of that and cognizant of what is the most appropriate language to use. And if you're not sure, listen and test it with your colleagues.
Yes. I think the testing thing is and it doesn't take much, does it? To
No,
grab
it
a
doesn't.
diverse group of people in a room and say, we just want your insight, your thoughts on this. I always talk about allergic reactions, which is something you've almost mentioned here, but there's certain phrases that feel like an allergic reaction. I need to know all of those. And it might, I would possibly not be able to spot it. There was a client recently who said, whatever you do, don't use the word partnership. Okay, I won't ask you why, but I was going to. No, it's an alliance. Fine, okay, it's good.
But it's so important, isn't it? When people get really, really hung up on particular words or things to avoid or think, we need to know this as internal communicators. We need to know this. And it's not just what our leaders are comfortable with, but what our employees, that interpreting bit. So it's what our leaders are saying, it's what our employees are hearing. I was with a client's exec team the other day, and we were working on their purpose. And the CEO was brilliant. He was really great. And as we were talking through language, and I was saying, what works, what doesn't, and he kept pulling faces. And I said, my intention for this is that whatever we decide, and they've done shortlisting with employees, all sorts, whatever we decide, you need to say it and not wince. So that was the outcome for me. Is I need you to be able to internally and externally talk about the organisation, say your purpose, and not pull that face. And it worked.
It's a measure.
It's a measure. So at the end of the session, when I was then, I worked them really hard, Katie. And at the end of that session with the exec, I said, now, do we all feel comfortable? Can we all say it without wincing? We've got the right phrase.
It's not bad though, is it?
Measure what you treasure. I need you to be talking about your purpose and not your face not going at the end of it.
We've all been told to say things that don't feel right. And actually, we kind of bury that feeling sometimes because it's written down, so I ought to say it like that. No, if you feel you can't say it, it's probably not right, actually.
If your face isn't believing it, if you're saying something and your face isn't believing what you're saying and your micro expressions are given away that I don't actually believe this. This isn't actually something I'm bought into. If that's your values or your purpose, you need to live it, particularly as a leader. From the inside out, you need to demonstrate and role model, I believe in this. But if your face is showing the opposite. So that was my test. I kept going until they were all comfortable and not wincing.
I love that so much. One of the conversations we had, and I don't know if it was the last time we met or the time before, but it was such a light bulb moment for me. You talked about honouring the past in change. Oh, my goodness me. How often do we go, there's the plan, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And hang on a minute. The indication, and you see this sometimes even with kids, I think, you tell them to do, we're going to be doing this next, or this has got to change. But it doesn't mean what you were doing before was wrong or bad. It's just the world has moved on. Everything's moved on. So, talk to me about honouring the past and what that actually could look like in practice for an organisation.
Oh, this is so important for me. I use that phrase a lot. And honouring the past isn't just acknowledging what's happened before. It's really holding it quite dear as an organisation.
Yes.
Honouring is a very intentional word choice there for me.
Right.
Because it's not just acknowledging what's gone before. It's much more than that. It's much more around the emotional connections that our people have, the myths, the legends, the brand reputation. Whenever I'm looking at change, it is taking the time to pause, reflect, and acknowledge what's happened before and honour it in a way that, let me give you a practical example. If I was doing a new building, for example, then I might have a series of meeting rooms or meeting spaces. A way to honour the past and acknowledge the past might be to name one of the meeting rooms after the old road name or the old building that we used to be in.
Yes, yes.
So I'm honouring our story. You know, if you look at Engage for Success and the strategic narrative is all about the story of the organisation, where it's come from and where it's going. Where it's come from is that mindset of honouring the past.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm looking at change, if I'm doing a timeline, I start of what's gone before.
Yes.
I look at these are all the things that are ahead, and we're really well placed to do that because look at what's got us to this point.
Yes, exactly.
And it's so easy to not do that, to dash off, if you say, and plan for what's to come. So honouring the past is also about, particularly if you have a merger or acquisition. What are the stories? What are the myths? What are the legends? What are the legacies? What are the things that actually your employees are holding of their length of service at that previous company?
Yes.
Yes, they're coming into your organisation, and yes, they perhaps now have a different lanyard and a different, name on the door. But actually, honouring the past is normally you are bought for a good reason.
Yeah.
What is it about that organisation that the new organisation, if you like, the newly formed organisation is honouring?
Yes.
Found attractive or wanted to keep?
Yes.
And it to surface in the new combined organisation.
Yeah, it's really smart.
So it's all things like that for me. It's like, what is it that actually, again, it's treasuring. Like, what do we treasure? What can we honour? That I did that in the railway, where I retrospectively did lengths of service for my employees, because when I joined London Overground, the company was 18 months old. It had merged 5 different TOCs, train operating companies, together, and all different bits of the railway. So people had missed their milestones. And I'm talking 20, 25, 30, 35, 45 years service.
Wow.
If that had fallen in the previous 18 months, there was nothing. It hadn't been acknowledged.
Yes.
So if when they joined the organisation, they'd met a milestone, because there hadn't been a comms team in place until I joined, that just got forgotten.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can't say to you, let's get ready for all the things that are ahead, without honouring your commitment.
Yeah, super.
And it was a nightmare, Casey, trying to sort that out.
I bet it was.
Trying to verify everything.
But what a signal, not just to that individual, those individuals, but to the whole organisation.
Yeah.
You talked before about it might only, impact this change, a small organisation. As you say, don't think people aren't watching, and don't think there's not employees all around the organisation that are friends or know people.
That's it.
It's a real signal. Yeah, I love that so much.
It's a really important thing to do. I think to have that celebration of them, that honouring of the past, of honouring of all of their commitment and their service, it's not forgotten, because you're right, the people around them, they knew full well that it looked like it had been forgotten. Yeah. So that was a signal of, we are a sum of our parts, and we're a sum of those 5 train operating companies coming together. All of that actually was, this is us, this is who we are. Yes. And we are honouring our people, and we're acknowledging their service. And this isn't a soft and fluffy thing. No. I need them to be motivated and inspired by what we're doing and the changes that are ahead. If I'm meeting them where they're at and thanking them, surely that, intrinsic motivation gets sparked, where you feel acknowledged and you feel like my contributions matter. So I pushed really hard for that, and it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's such good advice. We are often in change, I guess, sitting around a table, probably an actual real table often. And I'm just imagining the tables I've been around over the years. There's always someone from IT, usually, a CTO office there. There's HR, obviously. There's probably a change management team. Very often there's a McKinsey or a McKinsey type consultancy involved. And we're there. You've hinted at this already, but let's talk about it explicitly. Our unique perspective, our unique value. What do you see what are we bringing in that no one else around that table can really do justice to, but we can?
The insights we have about our people, the depth of knowledge we have about the organisation, and how we can't do our jobs without doing that, without knowing where our people are, what's important to them. I talk a lot about it's our business to know our business. And I mean that from an internal communication perspective, but I also mean it from how the business operates.
Yes, yes.
And if we're really trying to be in this strategic space, this trusted advisor space. Katie, we've done very well to not get... We just have our whole conversation. We haven't said trusted advisor. That's extraordinary. Or AI. Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh my goodness. But if we try to operate in that space, and if you're really demonstrating that you know the business, that what you bring to the table in a way that is different from most other people around that table are those insights. You know where people are at. You should do. We need to know the sentiment, the rumours, what's stopping people from feeling motivated at the moment. What are they concerned about? What's keeping them up at night? Knowing that from an employee perspective, but also knowing that from a leader's perspective as well. When I'm having conversations like that, if I'm in a room and there's, the good biscuits, if I'm in
yes, they've pulled out the posh biscuits.
They've got the posh biscuits out of me. Then part of that for me is, yes, of course, we want to be around that table. But if I've done my job, particularly when I was working in-house, every single person around that table needs to know that their role includes internal communication.
Oh, yeah.
Not just me.
Yeah.
So if there is a, say, 10 minutes comms update at the end of a board meeting and they overrun and that doesn't happen, that doesn't mean that those people shouldn't know already what their roles are when it comes to communication. So if I'm ever in a room like that, I want to make sure that I've had conversations individually with people first.
Yes.
I'm really invested in those relationships and I'm clear what the ask is from a comms perspective for those people. So what we bring that other people don't is the depth of knowledge. We are subject matter experts. Everyone thinks they can communicate, and they can.
Don't they, Dust? Yes.
They can. But the depth, and that's why, for me, investing in my professional development is really important, keeping up to date with training, with expanding my thinking, expanding my knowledge. Yeah. Because the more time I invest in myself and my professional development, the better the advice I can give, the deeper my knowledge can go. It's not a surface level thing. It can't be. It has to be that I'm continually learning. And that's what you demonstrate in those sorts of forums. You're showing the, employee surveys when they get done. Normally we are the ones who remember what the results are.
Yes, exactly.
And we use those in our conversations. So when we're having constructive discussions with stakeholders, or not so constructive, say, but we're using that data, those employee insights, we're using those in that conversation to say, our people feel like change is done to them. So how do we avoid that? You're citing your own data. Fine to benchmark with other companies, etc. And that's where your, McKinsey's, etc. come in. But actually, we are the subject matter experts alongside our colleagues in HR, obviously. But actually, make that your business.
Yeah.
To when there's not an employee in the room. How you show up with that depth of knowledge is you are doing that horizon scanning and you are taking all of those different people's views into account, but you are the subject matter expert. You deserve to be there.
Yeah, you're absolutely necessary, actually, I think. And McKinsey, I was really surprised that they still, working with them, I think a couple of years ago, they still trot out the stat that 70% of all change programmes fail to fully achieve their full objectives. And one of the reasons is communication. But they're not in my experience, particularly. I know they have a comms division, an internal comms division. But yes, our role is so necessary around that table. One of the things I wanted to, it's been buzzing around my head as you've been talking. We tend to think of change as detrimental in some way. I mean, if I went up to someone and said, I'm going to change your life and I'm going to give you £1 million, it probably wouldn't necessarily be that hesitation and that fear. Possibly there might be, but not necessarily. We tend to think of changes in somehow negative. But I can also think, and I've done it myself, actually, even inside AB, where I've got up to say something that I thought was actually going to be really positive and met with a big hurrah. And I've done it in the wrong way, at the wrong time, with the wrong language, and it's landed really badly. So I just wanted to check with you that actually all of this applies, even if you think you're talking about something that everyone's going to sort of start waving, flags around for.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I think being mindful of how you communicate change, whether it's a positive change or perceived to be a negative change, it really matters. Because it's how we handle, to your point earlier around our employees are watching, it's how you handle the good stuff.
Yeah.
matters, as well as how sensitively you handle the more difficult changes that are happening. I run an exercise whenever I'm doing change communication training. I run an exercise and I write on a slide on a screen. I write change is, and then I get people to write one word. And I have done that hundreds and hundreds of times. And then I get people to tell me what those words are. I did it a couple of weeks ago at All Things I See Live. And the words are normally things like overwhelming, it's stressful, it's constant, it's difficult. Sometimes I get, it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I get more positive words. But overwhelmingly, change is perceived as loss.
Yeah.
When people hear that change is coming, they think, I'm gonna have a sense of loss of identity, loss of a job, loss of a brand, product, manager, service, whatever it might be. And our minds go there. So in talking earlier about it's okay to say change, it is okay to say change, but you need to qualify it.
Yes.
What are we talking about here? What is the change that's going to happen? Where have you come from and where are you going towards? What is it that your employees are going to experience, or the processes that you're going to go through? That's really important. So you can say change but qualify it. And when I'm asking employees in an organisation about their experiences of change, and I do that, change is ... that's really important for me.
Yes.
Because if it is that everyone feels really excited about change, and I'm about to land a big one, and it's about to be a really big, restructure, then actually I need to know that. It's never that way around. I don't think I've ever had it that way around. As I was saying that, I was thinking, have I ever actually had it that way around? No, I haven't. It's normally the opposite, that people are anxious about change. And I featured Hilary Scarlett in the book, whose books on neuroscience for internal comms. Oh, what just amazing. I learned so much from her work, and she's incredible. And so I featured in the book Hilary's thoughts around how the body processes change, and the threat and anxiety that we have when we hear change is coming. If listeners haven't read Hilary's work, I thoroughly recommend Hilary Scarlett. She's wonderful. And just even that, to understand the psychology around change and how your brain interprets change and how your body physically reacts and responds when you perceive a threat.
Yes.
Fascinating to be aware of. Again, that's that depth of knowledge that we need to have in that boardroom. It's that we spend time learning this stuff because it matters.
Hilary was a very early guest on this show. I think, I want to say show 8, but listeners and viewers, it will be in the show notes. But a fantastic conversation with Hilary that really, really stayed with me. We've almost got to the end of this conversation. I'm looking at the time here and realising we haven't mentioned AI. Do we need to talk about AI? You mentioned it briefly at the end of the book. What's your view on how it might change, I guess, and our work in general?
I think if I think about the Cloverleaf and I think about consistency, where we are verifying facts and we're being clear on what's happening in the organisation, what's happening now with employees using AI, and particularly agentic, using tools like Copilot internally to surface content and communication, then actually that verification might not be through the comms team.
Yeah.
It might be, in terms of a change, particularly, if employees are searching for information, they're searching for a source of truth, and they are using Copilot or whatever you're using internally, and they're surfacing news articles or organisational structures or whatever they might come across in the organisation. Now, the check and balance is not always the comms team or HR.
It's really interesting.
It might be what they come back with. And because they've got it from inside the organisation, it's perceived to be a source of truth.
Yeah.
That is something that fascinates me. And it's something that we're only just really starting to see happening in organisations. We've had it a little bit with enterprise social networks, but this is it.
Magnified
in a way that we're not really planning for that. So part of that for me, that is be clear if you have a source of truth, which is an FAQs part of a intranet or Q&As. They're never frequently asked. They're frequently asked by the comms team. Exactly. Let's be clear, Katie. Maybe they're Q&As. Then actually it's almost identifying it as fact checked.
Yes.
Whatever that looks like. I was talking about that with a client the other day, saying, do we think we need to have a stamp that says like verified?
Interesting.
So if you are surfacing this, it is actually the latest. It is actually, this is actually factually correct and signed off, not just a thread of a conversation that your search has returned.
Yeah.
So that I'm fascinated in that.
That's really interesting.
It's really interesting.
But your prep before the change happens and before you even write anything, or all the way through the change, might be to do your own co-pilot search as an employee to find out what it's spitting back for you.
That's it.
That's really interesting. Before we head to those quick fire questions, if someone listening, watching today could do one thing differently around change communication, what would you have them do?
Mark when the change is done.
Right.
Mark the end.
Yeah.
We do a big fanfare when change launches.
Right, yes.
And then we might do a big push in the middle. And then actually, when the change is done, when there is a return to business as usual, when employees know they can open the intranet and not be faced with an organisational announcement because this particular work stream change is done, say that.
Yeah.
So often we don't, and our employees hold that.
Yes.
They hold the weight of all the changes. There's never just one change in an organisation.
Yeah.
So my advice would be, where you can, mark the end of a change. In the same way when you announced it, you were managing expectations and all the good things, hopefully. Do the same at the end. Yeah.
Very, very good advice. This episode of the Internal Comms podcast is brought to you by my very own Friday update. Would you like a short email from me, never more than just 5 bullet points long, giving you my take on the week's news from across the world of communications? This might be the latest reports, books, campaigns, conferences that have caught my eye during the week. I always limit myself to just 5 nuggets of news so you can read it in record time, but still feel hopefully a little bit more informed and a little bit more uplifted as you end your week. Now, this is subscriber content only, which was initially intended just for AB colleagues and clients. I don't post this content anywhere else. So you do need to sign up, but that is super easy. Simply go to abcom, that's abcom.co.uk/Friday. We just need your email address. And it is equally easy to unsubscribe anytime. So why not give it a go? That sign up page again, abcom, abcom.co.uk/Friday. And if you do choose to be a subscriber, I very much look forward to being in touch. So these quick fire questions. What's one myth about internal comms you would like to banish forever?
I can't just choose one. I've got a whole blog post on myths of internal communication. I think that it's just down to us.
Yeah.
It is too important to be left down to one person, one team, one department. It is everyone's responsibility. That doesn't take away from our jobs. It means that we need to help people be the best communicators they can be.
Yes.
Can't be a great leader without being a great communicator. So we need to be comfortable that actually not everything is within our control, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you are the role model of what excellent communication looks like in your organisation.
Yeah.
So your job, therefore, is to coach and consult and upskill people in order to help them be better communicators.
Yes.
It doesn't take away from our jobs.
No. Very good advice. What's one career lesson that as internal comms pros we probably only really learned through experience?
To not let hierarchy inhibit honesty.
Oh, good one.
I can have really difficult conversations with CEOs, boards, whoever in an organisation because I've been doing this a wee while and I don't let hierarchy inhibit how honest I am.
Yeah.
If a leader needs to be told, you did a dreadful job at that all staff, you were totally off message or you looked really shifty.
You pulled the face.
you winced. You winced when you said our purpose. Then that's really important to be that accountable person. So I think that comes from experience. I didn't used to be able to talk with senior leaders, particularly in the way that I now do. I think that comes from building your own confidence, your own self-belief, because we know our business. So when you are showing up, I think they're just a person with a job title. Be respectful, respect the hierarchy, but don't let it stop you from being that honest voice that says to that leader, I try and sometimes say that channel's not working hard enough for you, which softens it slightly. But actually what I'm saying is this isn't a good fit. Other times I'm very direct and very candid and will say, this doesn't work for you. Not the channel. This doesn't work for you, for your style, for how you need to come across. This isn't working.
Yeah. And I think as long as people know you've got their best intentions at heart, you really are only saying this to help. If you wanted to not help, you wouldn't say it.
Exactly that. I said to a client the other day, we started working with a new client, and I said, view me as your critical friend. Expect me to tell you what I find. I said, but I'm not your friend. I'm your critical friend.
Yes.
You've hired me to tell you what's going on.
Yes.
So therefore, I will criticise. It'll be constructive, and I'll give you recommendations of how we can improve. But if you didn't believe there was a problem, I wouldn't be here.
That's true.
So I've really set the boundaries and the intention up front in terms of if everything was fine, we wouldn't be having the conversation.
No.
So expect me to be honest with you. Expect me to be candid. Expect me to ask questions that might be uncomfortable. I'll do it nicely because I'm nice, but
set that up.
But you've invited me in to give you constructive view. Expect that from me. I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah, that's really clever, because then it's no surprise when you start giving that advice. And is there one book on communication you keep coming back to time and time again?
You know what I'm going to say? Bill Quirk.
It's Bill.
It's Bill. It's the OG. As my kids would say. The GOAT, actually, my kids would say.
Yes.
The greatest of all time in Bill Quirk. Making the connections. It is absolutely falling to bits. Which is a really good sign. I love it when people show me photographs of my book and it's all dog-eared and got Post-it notes all over it. I'm like, good, it's there to be read.
That's how it's meant to be used.
It is. It's not to be sat on a shelf. I want you to use it and mark it up. And so, Bill's book for me, Making the Connections, because so much of the language we use today is in that book. And actually, when I was researching mine, I got a copy of his Communicating Change book from 1995.
Yes.
1995, Casey, and 30 years on, it could have been written today.
Amazing, yeah. It's a smart guy.
Super smart. And I think, so Bill Quirk's Making the Connections has stood the test of time for me, in that fundamental principles remain unchanged.
Yes.
What we do in terms of tech has moved on.
Yeah.
Even since 2008.
Yeah.
But that's my go-to.
Yeah. I asked him he's been on the show, of course, like everyone's been on the show now. And I said, why is it you think that your models are so remembered and so well used and so compelling? And he thought about it for a moment. He said, you know what? He said, I've been in so many management team meetings and so many executive team and committee meetings where I've been put on the spot and I've had to jump up and explain why I'm doing things a certain way. And I had to be clear and compelling and quick. And it's that, he said, that I think, and it really shows, I think, in his work.
Yeah.
Do you have an all-time favourite quote about communications?
It's the Maya Angelou quote around...
Oh, yes.
I've learned... So the poem is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
That, for me, from an internal comms perspective, it is huge. But there's also the line before that, in that poem, is I've learned that I've still got a lot to learn.
Ah.
So I've learned that I still have a lot to learn. And I think that's really important. You can never stop learning.
Yeah.
I am still learning about internal communication. I learn constantly because that's so important to me. And that focus on how people feel. They won't remember the exact wording and the key messages around the change. They won't remember what the leader said in the town hall. But if they feel like that change was done at them, or in spite of them, or was intentionally vague, that feeling stays with them longer than that change communication program. So that mindset for me it's so important. We also have another Maya Angelou quote that we use a lot in my house, which is, when you know better, do better.
Oh,
sometimes said nicely, but sometimes said, when you know better, do better.
Yeah.
So the intention for me in all of my blogs or podcasts or teachings and books, whatever it might be, is to help internal communicators know better.
Yeah.
So hopefully then we can do better.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really key for me.
Yeah. Love it so much. So the last couple of times you haven't changed your billboard quote. You've got this very early on. This is another chance to change it if you'd like to. New billboard quote?
No, I'm sticking with the original, Katie, because it's so important.
Yeah.
You've got this is that internal mantra. You've got this. And it's that self-belief that we need to have.
Yeah.
And that confidence that we need to have to speak truth to power, to not let hierarchy inhibit honesty. So all the work that we do on ourselves, and it's that internal voice when you are walking into that boardroom or you're joining that call, you've got this.
Love it.
So I'm sticking with it. It's on the wall in my office. You very kindly mocked it up for me. And I've got it at my office, my home office. And I look at that when I walk in every morning. I see it every morning. So yeah, I'm sticking with it.
I'm glad you are. Rachel, this has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and lovely to be here for the 4th time.
Yes, there'll be a 5th, don't worry.
Thank you, Katie.
So that is a wrap for this episode of the Internal Comms podcast. For the show notes, head over to AB's website. That's abcom.co.uk. You will also find there our entire back catalogue of more than 100 episodes. I think there's one for almost every comms challenge you might be facing at the moment. My thanks to the dream team behind the scenes, my lovely colleagues at AB for keeping the show on the road, to Rachel, and of course to you for tuning in. Do please like, rate, subscribe. That just gives the algorithms a little nudge, helps your fellow comms practitioners around the world find our show. So until we meet again, lovely listeners, stay safe and well. And remember, it's what's inside that counts.